Hi everyone, Smriti this side, PGT Science from SR International School, and the chapter that we all will be covering today is getting to know plants. Yes, plants, the basic component which is responsible for the survival of humans, even animals. So before learning more about plants, we must know that plants are categorized on the basis of their sizes into certain divisions. Let's start one by one with each and understand what they are and how is their structure. Talking first about herbs. Herbs are very thin plants. They have very thin and tender stems. The stems are not at all thick. They are very short. They are very small because they don't have very thick stem, very strong stem, so that they can grow long and they can stand erect, or the stem could support the plant. There is nothing of that sort. The stem is very thin. It's very tender. It's very delicate. These are known as herbs. They don't have a very big lifespan. For example, mint, coriander, that is dhania. Mint is your pudina, right? And similar, all kinds are known as herbs. They will come under the category of herbs. Talking next about shrubs. Shrubs, they have a thick stem, right? But not very thick that they are very long. They have a lot of branches. Examples such as tulsi, it may be considered as one of your shrub. Next, coming on to trees, neem tree, mango tree, banyan tree. They all are examples of trees, and I'm sure you all know what trees are. They have a lot of branches. Their lifespan is very, very long, and their stem is quite thick. They don't just have a stem. They actually have a branch, right? A trunk, and they have a lot of branches, of course, and they have a trunk, and this trunk is very, very strong. Next are creepers. Now there are some plants, children, which cannot stand upright on their own. They are known as creepers. They actually creep onto the ground and they expand. Examples of creepers can be pumpkin, watermelon, etc. Next, and the last one is a climber. Now some of the plants, they have a very, very tender stem. The stem is very weak, very flexible, and cannot stand upright on its own. Thus it needs support of other plants or other objects, and therefore they are known as climbers, a kind of plant which climbs onto other objects or the plants in order to grow.
Alright, so let's discuss about the parts of a plant. So here we have a complete diagram of parts of a plant. A plant is basically divided into two main parts, that is a shoot system and a root system. Let's start with it. So here, as you can see, is a diagrammatic representation of a plant. These are the small parts which are coming, which gives rise to a new leaf, and they are actually the bud. These are the flowers. Here you have the leaves. You even have some fruit bearing plants. This is the stem, and in the root system, coming on to the roots part. Now roots are actually divided, like the first main root will be also termed as the primary root. Now this primary root will segregate or will be divided into other main little roots, which will be known as secondary roots. Even secondary roots have very thin structures which are called tertiary roots, or I would write it here, they are called tertiary roots. Hope it's clear.
Next, coming on to the functions of stems. Well, when we discuss and when we learn about the functions of stem, let's discuss them in detail. So stems perform various functions, number one out of which is transportation. The food produced in the plant's body, also the water and minerals, is transported throughout the body of the plant through transportation itself. So therefore, transportation takes place in stems, and the stem acts as a basic part of a plant which helps in providing or in transporting water and minerals along with food in a plant's body. Next is the storage. In many of the plants, stem acts like a storage organ of food. For example, potato, it's an underground stem which stores food in it. Next, talking about support. Plants even provide support to stems provide support to a plant, as stems, they help plants in standing upright, so therefore providing it with support. Next could be food manufacturing. right? Many of the stems, like not just only plants perform photosynthesis, but in several plants, even stems, they help in processing the process of photosynthesis. And those plants are somewhat like, they are asparagus, cactus, or even bananas, right? Next, talking about the next one, which is climbing. As you learn about climbers, so therefore climbers climb other objects. That means they take help of other objects or other plants in order to stay upright, and that is done with the help of their own stems. Next is perennation. Now, what is perennation? It is the process of any plant, or it's a phenomena in which the plant protects itself or survives in any sort of weather conditions. That is also done through stems, like some underground stems like ginger or garlic or potato, etc. And last but not the least, a stem is the basic part of a flower, or sorry, part of any plant, which provides the plant with all the necessary things like support, transportation, as we have read and just understood about them all. Next, coming on to some of the basic functions of the leaf. When we discuss about certain functions of leaf, number one, the first thing which clicks all our mind is photosynthesis. Yes, leaves help in preparing food by the process called photosynthesis, and that way all the leaves of a plant produces or makes food which is required by the plant for its own survival and growth. Next are certain modifications in a leaf, like certain leaves. They consist of tendrils. Tendrils are thin thread-like structures which help in enabling any plant in climbing. It holds, with the help of those tendrils, it holds another object, another plant, and thus helps the plant to climb. Similarly, some of the plants, they have spines, like cactus. These spines, they help in ensuring that the plant, like cactus, has less of transpiration, and that way cactus, it can store more of water, because desertous areas, it's very hot, and if it's very hot, all the water which a cactus has, if that water gets evaporated, cactus will no longer be able to survive in those weather conditions, like the kind of weather conditions which are prevailing in desertous areas. So therefore, these spines, they help in closing the stomata, majority of them, on the leaves of cactus, so that the water transpiration cannot take place. Even some of the leaves, they are responsible for vegetative reproduction. For example, bryophyllum. These bryophyllum, they have similar leaves which are called notches around them, which grows up to form more of bryophyllum leaves. Apart from all these, as I already discussed about transpiration, plant leaves also perform transpiration, that is leaving or expelling out the excess of water into the atmosphere through stomata in the form of water vapor, which also contributes in water cycle. Even gaseous exchange. Gaseous exchange is also done, like plants take carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. Even this process is done through leaves. Last but not the least, certain leaves, they also help in storing food. The leaves which are fleshy enough, they actually store food in them. For example, onions.
Next, coming on to the parts of a leaf. Now, when we discuss about the parts of a leaf, here is a diagrammatic representation of a leaf. The front or the flattened part of the leaf is called the lamina. The tip of the lamina is called the apex. Then coming on to the stalk, a small stalk which is attached to the stem, and that is called petiole. The stem part onto which the petiole is attached is called axis. A small outgrowth in the stem will be known as a bud. The part on the stem from which the leaf emerges will be known as a node. Now, the main center rib-like structure, it will be known as midrib, and then certain veins will be known as veins. The certain veins which are coming or arising out of the midrib will be termed as veins. Right, so here we have two different types of root systems. One is taproot system and one is fibrous root system. So when we discuss about taproot system, so understand children, like when a seed germinates, the root emerges from the seed, which is called radicle. Now this is the main root from which the root branches they emerge. The main root grows deep into the soil. Such a root system is called taproot system. Coming on to fibrous root system. In plants like maize or even grass, a cluster or a combination of roots arises from the base and the stem. The root obtained or formed first will die first, and similarly the other small roots will grow up, they'll certainly die, then their parts will grow up and they'll die, resulting in the formation of the whole cycle which goes on and on. There is no main root in this. They form the fibrous root system and they spread out in the soil, giving support to the plants. Coming next to the most important part, and that is longitudinal section of a flower showing its parts. So here is the diagrammatic representation into which there are certain parts in a flower which I'll be explaining one after the other. Number one, starting from pedicel. Now this is pedicel and this is a part of the plant through which the flower is attached to the stem. Next are sepals. These are green leaf-like structures which are present in the outermost whorl of a flower. Now what is whorl? W-H-O-R-L. Actually, a typical flower has 4 main whorls which are arranged on the stalk, starting from the base, working upwards. So this is actually the first whorl, the outermost whorl. They help in protecting the flower. Next comes these petals. They're generally large and they're brightly colored part of a flower. They also have a very good fragrance. They attract insects for pollination. They form the next whorl from the outside of a flower. Next are stamen. When we talk of stamen, it consists of 2 main parts, anther and filament. Actually, stamen are the male reproductive parts of a flower. Each stamen consists of a stalk called filament, and along with that a structure at the top which is called anther. Anther has pollen grains, a powdery substance in it. Next, coming on to carpel. This is the female reproductive part of a flower. Carpel consists of a swollen part at the base which is ovary, a long stalk-like structure called the style, and a small expanded part of the style which is called stigma. The ovary has 1 or more ovules inside it. So, like 1 or more carpels, they form up the pistil. Now, what are the basic functions of a flower? It's the reproductive part of a plant. It has brightly colored petals which helps in attracting insects. After being pollinated, the flower produces seed. Now we are talking about pollination and pollinated flowers. Let's discuss about what pollination actually means. So pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. So when the pollen grains goes through the stigma of a flower into the style and finally reaches the ovary, ovary has certain ovules. When the pollen grain fuses with the ovules, it thus results in fertilization, that is, proper reproduction in plants taking place.